Good day. Charles here just to share my weekly Bible notes. Um, I guess I'll just kind of look back through this last week and um, anything that jumps out here that I've highlighted. All right, let's see. I guess the first place is the book of Hosea in the Old Testament, one of the quote unquote minor prophets. And let's go to Hosea chapter 4. Some of the best, well, best isn't the right word, but maybe lesser preached but the minor prophet books are just filled with so many powerful verses. So, I guess I'm Hosea chapter 6. And so, how should I do this? I guess I'll read just like the section that I'm around. So I really highlighted chapter 6, verse 2. And let's just read the verses above and beneath that. Hosea chapter 6. Come and let us return unto the Lord, for he hath torn, and he will heal us. He hath smitten, and he will bind us up. After 2 days will he revive us. In the third day he will raise us up, and we shall live in his sight. Then shall we know, if we follow on to know the Lord. His going forth is prepared as the morning, and he shall come unto us as the rain, as the latter and former rain unto the earth. The main thing I just wanted to point out here, so an overall point or summary is how the vast majority of the Bible is written to Israel. So this is an example of why it's so important in 2 Timothy. I just read that verse, chapter 2, I think verse 15. Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not be ashamed. So rightly dividing the word of truth. And that's so emphatic, I would say, dividing the word of truth. So you look at how the New Testament writers, guided by the Holy Spirit, quote the Old Testament, and they often take a verse right out, from the Old Testament, and they apply it either spiritually or doctrinally to the church, who they're writing to most of the time in the New Testament. And many of the things that Jesus did, of course, he quotes the Old Testament and he fulfilled them literally. And in actuality, there's so many verses in the Old Testament that Jesus has not yet fulfilled, and he is going to at his second coming. And many of those promises are to the nation Israel. So right here, just consider that verse 2, after 2 days will he revive us. In the third day he will raise us up, and we shall live in his sight. So remember how it says in 1st or 2nd Peter, I think 2nd Peter, that 1,000 years is as 1 day unto the Lord. So think about this, that in Romans you have how Paul writes how Israel has been blinded until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. And that is going on 2,000 years, and we don't actually know the precise date that it is right now. Of course, we're in the year on our calendar 2024, so we really must be at least close to 2,000 years since Jesus the time of Jesus. So after 2 days will he revive us. Israel has now been blinded for almost 2,000 years. So think about that. Right here you have a verse declaring that after 2 days, this is speaking to Israel. They've been basically dead, and in the 3rd day he will raise us up. So that could be any time, really. So that's really exciting. But I know I'm somewhat quoting this out of context because the book of Hosea is about Israel at the time, when Hosea wrote this, but there's so many verses in here that are prophetic that will be fulfilled. So even the second part of verse 2, we shall live in his sight, meaning when Jesus is actually reigning and ruling in Jerusalem, they'll actually see him. So it's all connected to the return of Christ and the millennial reign of Christ and everything. So I just thought that was really cool, so I highlighted it. What next? I guess I should try to prepare a little more. I have in the book of John, I highlighted a verse, chapter 8. Let's jump over there. Goodness, I didn't realize how. I hope this isn't terribly boring. I need to try to be more succinct and prepare a little more. So John chapter 8, verse 32. I'll read starting at 30. As he spake these words, many believed on him. Then said Jesus to those Jews which believed on him, If ye continue in my word, then are ye my disciples indeed, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. I highlighted that because I find it very interesting that I believe only in the King James Version do you specifically have the word make you free. It's always quoted, as even by myself many times, the truth shall set you free. And I know I'm not meaning to be nitpicky, but I want to point out that the word make, I think, has a greater and deeper meaning of how the way I look at it is we're all sinners, and when you're convicted by the gospel, by the Holy Spirit, and you're born again when you believe on him, on what Jesus did for you, you're changed. Your spirit is combined with the Holy Spirit. So that's how you're born again spiritually. And when you say make you free, it's sort of like, it makes me think of how God makes things, how he made the heaven and the earth and everything. Now, see, I'm wandering my thoughts because, he obviously says he created, but when God makes something, he's taking what is there and he's using those materials, and then he's making something new out of it. So it's not just setting you free like you're, it's not true to not say that you're set free from sin, but you still struggle with sin and everything. But if you really grasp that over the course of time, he's making you free, he's changing you from the inside out, and as you walk with him and as your relationship grows and everything, from taking in his truth of his word, he makes you free. He doesn't just set you free and give you license to sin and all that. We have to go to him and confess to him every day, of course, but it's different. Like, you're changed to such an extent that you don't want to sin anymore. Like, you feel ashamed. What you actually want is to just please Him and obey Him, and for all of your practices and viewpoints, everything changes when you are born again. You are different. You don't immediately overcome whatever sin it is or addictive sin that you have, but He changes your perception and keeps empowering you. He makes you free from it. And then you look back, months or years later or whatever, and it's not always something that you just realize all the time, but then you think, I'm not as mad as I used to be about um, this thing, or I don't get as frustrated as I used to by politics, or like in my case, I'm a courier and I do a lot of driving, and I still have a ways to go, but I can look like 6 months ago or a year ago, and I deal with so many bad traffic problems. I mean, people driving mean and disrespectful, but I'm getting more into the habit now of, rather than flying off and cursing and everything, I'm like, God bless you. I'm sorry. And then I think, I have no idea what that person is going through. And even if that person is really wrong, it's like, I'm not going to dwell on this. I'm not going to let this make me so angry, like out of control. I mean, it's okay to get angry in the heat of the moment, but my overall attitude, it just gets better. And it's not just age and experience. It is the Holy Spirit showing you what is or is not important. He's making you free, not just setting you free. So um, now I really rambled on too long. Maybe this puts people to sleep at least, so that's good. Uh, I guess at least one more. Proverbs chapter 19. I'll get better at these videos as time goes by, I think. Proverbs chapter 19 and verse 16. He that keepeth the commandment keepeth his own soul, but he that despiseth his ways shall die. I mainly wanted to focus on the first half of the verse. He that keepeth the commandment keepeth his own soul. And what I got from that was how he's equating taking care of yourself to following him. So it's more than, like, religion is where you have the law and everything, or the doctrines of your church. Now, on a side note, doctrine is not a bad word, and it's another word where, once again, I believe it at least mainly only occurs in the King James Bible. Doctrine, you want to have doctrine, which is teaching about God's words. So that's okay. Some people take doctrine to be like, oh no, you're, having a set of religious rules or whatever. But um, anyway, you're keeping His commandment is you're taking care of yourself. So my point is that God doesn't just want you to do whatever He says just because He said so. He's giving it to you as a gift, to either to protect you or to work on you or to take care of yourself. So there's even a reward. God rewards when you listen to Him and live according to what He says. And it's not just, do this or else. It's God is always telling you, do this because this will make you feel at peace. This will make you not feel terrible. Like, don't, commit this sexual sin. Not just because, um, I'll punish you for that, but because that's going to make you feel terrible if you do that. That's going to cause a bunch of problems for you and that person, or don't take that drink because, not because, you're in big trouble with me because you did that, but because, God is telling you, you don't really want to do that because that's not going to make you feel good. That's going to make you dependent. That's going to make you sad later on. It may give you a buzz or a high for a moment, but in the long run, that is damaging to your soul. So don't do it. And thank God he is extremely gracious and merciful, because we all do things, whether realizing it or not, that are sinful. But I think when you've got it in front of you, or God has convicted you and you realize it, and it's not just only a personal conviction to you, but like God is showing it to you clearly that he doesn't want you to do that. So you keep his commandment. You're taking care of yourself. So I just think that's beautiful, that God isn't just, a dictator with no reason. He shows you, and he wants to enrich and give you more and more enjoyment out of life, out of all the simple things of life. So yeah, I just think that's great. So okay, thank you very much for listening, and Jesus bless you, and I hope you have a wonderful day.